think the guys were telling me that they have in their shop or at their factory a sample of this cabinetry that is submerged in water. I want to say that he said it's been there for 3 years next to a sample that's not in water, and it looks the exact same. That blows my mind.
Today we are talking about, it's called Lawn and Order, Capturing Buyers' Demand for the Great Outdoors. And I want to preface this session by saying I'm from Chicago, and I have not yet put up my deck furniture. But I think maybe people in other parts of the country have. It is a movement and a lifestyle that is changing rapidly, and it is an opportunity for home builders to really capture an audience in a new way. We're going to begin with introductions from our panelists.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Dalton-Cooney. I'm the head of our property management design team at Wayfair Professional, and I'm here to bring some insight into what we're doing and hopefully have some good conversation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Garcia. I'm with HomePro. I'm their senior business development manager, and I'm also super excited about this outdoor conversation. This is a relatively new venture for us. We started this about 2 years ago, and we've learned a lot in the last 2 years and grown a lot. So hopefully you can gain from some of this insight.
So there are only 3 of us up here, and only 2 have deep knowledge about what we're talking about, and the other is just a hanger-on who asks lots of questions. So I'm really going to ask the audience be prepared to ask questions and engage in the conversation here about what we're doing. Before that, we're going to get into some brief presentation from Erin and then a brief presentation from Nick. When I was talking to the panelists for this track, the one thing that I always keep in mind is that our job is to give you information and that you can take home and actually implement. That it's not just theoretical, that it's not just something that's out there and it's an idea, that it's something that you can take into your businesses when you get back and put in place. So that is the goal of this presentation, and there are people in this audience who can share information and make that also work for you. The other thing I always say is that, and I hope I'm not insulting anybody on my panels here, but my belief is that contractors, whether they're home builders, commercial contractors, or remodeling contractors, only believe what people who walk in their shoes tell them. Home builders only believe what a home builder has done and tried, and they're a little skeptical about what they're hearing elsewhere, in spite of the deep knowledge and the experience. So some of the greatest information we have in this room is sitting out there.
So everyone, I wanted to give you kind of a little bit of background here. So I'm coming to this space talking about our experience in outdoor for model homes. What I also have layered in is our team really focuses on commercial outdoor as well. So I think there's some alignment there that I'd love to speak on as we go through the deck, and really outlining what we're doing now, some of the design trends we're seeing, and then some of the common errors we've seen come across our plates and how we're addressing them. So in terms of trends, one of the things we've seen come through our doors and want to be really cognizant of is maximization. So we know that making the most of these desired outdoor spaces is going to resonate with buyers strongly. The transition from indoor to outdoor is key, and we're looking at these seating arrangements, placing furniture in a way that moves people throughout the outdoor space, gives them the understanding of how important that space would be, and it also lets them know and visualize themselves within the space. So the biggest one here I really love to call out is maximizing that space, whether it's large, small, whatever that layout looks like, and making sure it's appropriate for the intended user. Personalization. So we see this, and we see this in trends across all of our specialty retail brands about the assortment that we're using in our projects, but really reflection of lifestyle is a key as an extension of these spaces. So really leaning into things that resonate strongly with individuals that they're thinking about after they leave the space, thinking about models, right? Understanding how they connect to a pattern, understanding how they see themselves utilize something in a very unique way that isn't just the standard, let's place this here, let's fill this space. We want people to connect with the space, use it in a way that really is helpful for them to see themselves, their families, their loved ones utilizing, and then envision that for their future. It's definitely no longer an afterthought, right? We're thinking about unique and thought-provoking pieces. We see this probably in the industry overall, right? You're seeing just more flex in terms of color palette. We're thinking more textures. It's a little, stepping a little bit outside the comfort zone, and it feels that it can be helpful for people because it is showing what the potential of that space could look like. So in terms of layout, we really want to make sure we are showing how individuals use the space for layout in a way that maximizes their family time. It maximizes maybe their time with friends, hosting, anything that's important to them could be reflected in that layout and appropriately show that throughout the space, and emphasizing those high priority areas. It doesn't always have to be, a ton of product in those, but giving a sense of what that looks like flowing through the space in an appropriate way is going to resonate more strongly. In terms of furniture, one thing we really want to lean on is material durability and long-lasting finishes. It's going to resonate with people. They're touching it, they're feeling it, right? They can see what the quality of that furniture is, or have a quick, immediate understanding of that visually. And so making sure that that's to a level that really reflects the interior is going to be a cohesive experience from indoor to outdoor. Some reference here, of course, is leaning on those powder-coated aluminums, the HDPE and performance fabrics. So things that ultimately are going to give the confidence of the quality of those pieces and also align with solidifying the importance of that outdoor space. So some common errors we're seeing is really just those awkward layouts, things that don't allow individuals to utilize and move throughout the space well. And then lacking the transitions between the private and social areas. Some of our wow factors, obviously I'm pulling in some imagery, of course, from what we procure from Wayfair Professional online, but we have these eye-catching features. So water features, saunas, which we're seeing a ton of right now, outdoor kitchens, and then really aligning that with the demographic of individuals who are utilizing the spaces and what's important to them. Some of these things aren't going to be important for certain buyers. Some will, and really understanding what makes sense in these spaces and balancing that across the outdoor space. And then lastly, I've put this up here, of course, anyone would love to talk to me about business design services, please let me know. But this is also just a call out to how we help support our customers in the model home spaces, in our commercial outdoor spaces, and how we have designers who really are working with you to bring those projects to life. And here's some snapshots of the photography. And then I can kick it over to Nick.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, hi, Nancy. Let me repeat the question. Are you working with the landscape design company and the model home company to put together the whole package? Does Wayfair become the specifier at that point?
Yes, great question. So typically what we do is we work with the decision maker to help procure the furniture for the outdoor space, understanding how they are also bringing in their partner teams, like landscape architecture, anyone else who's procuring for the outdoor, and working together with them to understand what makes the most sense there. So yes, in either of those scenarios, we can procure, we can do more if needed, right? Or less if needed, depending on what they're looking for and how best to partner.
So as a follow-up, do you guys make those shoppable like we did when we saw Allie earlier today? Allie was, we were able to click on shoppable models. Are they able to do that outside as well?
I could see that definitely being a part of that shoppable, because just like everything else in the interior, right? Just like that extension, it would be really part of that procurement. So I think that makes absolute sense.
So my question is, our biggest issue with a lot of outdoor is that it's up to the sales agents to maintain it, which usually means we opt for no cushions or things because they're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see anything coming that would be attractive storage that we could use? Normally what you see is not really that attractive, and we're using the garage already for the sales gallery, so there's really no place to store it. So I didn't know if that was a trend or anything that you might see in a category.
No, that's a great question. I think that there probably are some unique ways to integrate storage in a way, even if it's something as simple as like the covered benches, right? Things that can be utilized throughout the space and balancing that out on the floor plan. where you'd have some small areas for that storage. But I think that's a great question. I'm also happy to kind of dig in with my team and understand if they've been doing that lately. It's actually the first time I've had that brought up. So yeah, it's a great question.
Well, my name is Nick Garcia. I'm with HomePro. So we are, just to give you a little context of who we are, what we do, and then really how we got here. Because 2 years ago, I would have never thought we would be doing anything outdoor living related other than, maybe wiring cameras, things like that. But so 27 years ago, we started out as a small security company pulling wire for builders. It seems like more often than not, the spaces and the additional services that we offer, we usually get pulled into through our relationships with our builder partners. So someone eventually came to us and said, "Hey, I know you're pulling security. Can you pull data? Can you pull audio video?" We're like, "Yeah, I think we can do that." This is when our owner was pulling wire and also selling jobs and stuff like that. So this is when we were very young, very agile, very flexible. And now, 27 years later, we are in 4 major markets in Texas: Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. So we started in Dallas. We've got 4 showrooms throughout. We've got kind of a satellite warehouse between Austin and San Antonio to help us kind of service that kind of middle ground. But all of that in total will probably make a run at 29,000 low voltage roughs across the state. And then about 10 years ago, we branched off into electrical. Again, there was this big finger pointing conversation of between the electrician and low voltage companies of you didn't put the switch in the right spot or you didn't integrate the right switch. So we said, okay, let's just get into the space. So our owner knew somebody that held a master's license and said, "Hey, do you want to come work for us and hold our license for the state?" And 10 years later, here we are. So we're doing somewhere around 14 or 15,000 electrical roughs across the state as well. And then sure enough, 2 years ago, our owner came up and said, "Hey, what do you think about outdoor kitchens?" We're like, "Well, it seems a little random, but okay, what's the deal here?" And really, we just found that it fits this space where I think most of the builders would agree. Really, the only way that outdoor kitchens or most things in outdoor living is getting installed is if you, number one, have someone that knows the products, but also can turnkey it. So kitchens, for example, you could have 5, maybe 6 different trades that are doing it, right? You've got the person that's stacking the brick from the extra brick from the house, and you've got the appliance person, and you've got, the plumber coming in, then you got the electrician. And so we said, we can do all that stuff. I don't understand why it's that hard. Plus, of the probably 29,000 buyers that we wire their house, I would say maybe half of those are coming through our showroom anyways. So then it became this concept of, well, we can just offer design services for buyers, and it really doesn't matter necessarily what we do as long as we're an expert in that field, and we offer best-in-class service for that field as well. So we just took that same concept. Hey, we do this for low voltage, we do this for electrical design services, wiring homes, things like that, and said, hey, let's do it for outdoor living. So 2 years later, here we are. I think we're in maybe 9 or 10 models right now with our outdoor kitchens across the state. And I think the joke in the last session was there's probably there are very few things that are not on our design board of what is under this umbrella of outdoor living, right? There's so much there already. So that kind of brings us to why, right? We already talked about, we just found a niche in the space where builders were either frustrated because they had to talk to 5 different people, or they just didn't know how to do it, and they said, we're not going to offer it. So there's very big gaps there. But you imagine you're only going out 2 times. We're taking it and making it a turnkey service, taking it off the builder's plate. We can either have it installed at the model or our showroom, so it allows the buyers to see it not just in one place, but also 2. Not only are you getting the technical services from our consultants that know the products, that know the appliances, know the individual manufacturers that we use, but also I think a big key to it in selling anything, whether it's a home, outdoor living, wire, whatever, it's selling the experience, right? Experience translates. You don't have to have a PhD in Bluetooth to understand how a grill works or what it's like to sit on your patio after a long day and watch your kids in the backyard play and have fun. That's an experience that pretty much all of us can relate to. And so we try to tell that story and communicate that when we're working with sales counselors and our builder partners and whatnot. And it's honestly allowed us to grow outside of just using our showroom, right? Because if a sales counselor can be comfortable telling the story of, this beautiful kitchen that you've designed or a beautiful drip zone that someone designed, right? They can also communicate the story of a really cool covered patio with a future, outdoor living functionality, whether that's heaters or fans or shades, things like that. I probably talked about this already, but the whole idea was to make it an easy button, right? I think that joke is probably overused, but it's true. I'm almost certain we have a banner somewhere that says, choose outdoor living, choose HomePro, hit the easy button. But the idea of going into it was to make it easy, right? It was frustrating. How could we make this simple? We feel there's a large gap in the market, and we still see buyers that are coming through that the option hasn't quite made it to the builder, because the builder, for whatever reason, doesn't have it in their repertoire of options. Buyers come through frequently and say, how do I get that kitchen? That is so cool. I just got a extended covered patio and I want to add that. And, maybe taking a step back to outdoor living in general. So like if you say, if I want to add an extended covered patio versus finishing out a media room in this kind of attic space, to do the finished out media room in the attic space, it's going to cost 3 to 4 times more, sometimes more, than what it would take to just put an extended covered patio, put some drops on the patio. So there's a ton of value in expanding and builders expanding the outdoor space and just adding this perceived value. Imagine walking onto your patio. You've got drops there. You might have some stereo pre-wires on the ceiling. You might have a camera pre-wire to protect your equipment or pool or whatever features you have in your backyard. Again, the storytelling, right? Everyone can relate to the story of hanging out by the grill. Maybe you got a pot of crawfish going, things like that.
That's a Texas reference.
I forget. I'm not in Texas, so it's like crawfish boil season right now. So I think I've already been to maybe 2 or 3. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Nancy.
Hi. So are the buyers going to the design studio to make options and then being sent over to your store to come and see your studio and do the rest? How does that integrate with the whole experience?
Yeah, good question. So there's not really a one size fits all. So I'll describe what maybe we would prefer and what is probably most of the time, but there are some nuances to that. So most of the time, if there's a design center appointment, they'll go to their initial, then they'll come to us. It could be on the same day. We're right near a few of the major design centers in the area, whether it's Weisenbaker or Flooring Services, et cetera. Sometimes they can schedule it to where they do their initial with that company, then they walk across the street, they're across the parking lot in some cases, they do our appointment, and then they go off to their final appointment a few weeks or a week later to finalize whatever they need to finalize. So most of the time, that is what we would prefer, but yeah.
And then is the product they're purchasing from you, is it something they can add to the loan? Or are they paying you directly? Or how does the financing on that side work with the home?
Yeah, so that also varies by builder. Our big value add is that we are working for the builder. There's kind of this spectrum of integrators. You've got this integrator over on this side that they really just want the aftermarket, because then you're not having to cut in any sort of like dollars to the builder, and that's more aftermarket post-close. The other side, you've got this big security focus, right? Integrators are just pushing for security, just trying to get contracts. We really try to take a middle approach and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Builder, we're here to serve and work for you, because we know that after that one individual customer, there are thousands behind them. So we would rather just work within your model and how we can best help you. And 90% of the time, that means that we are wrapping stuff into the loan or getting them to wrap it into the loan. In some cases, that isn't possible. There's certain options, like under the outdoor living umbrella, we are also going into furniture options. That might not always jive with mortgage companies putting furniture in the loan. So that might be something that has to be done aftermarket. That's right.
If we can't get energy costs into mortgages, I don't know how we're going to.
Yeah, so there are circumstances where we can and we do only offer certain things aftermarket, and they might even tell us, hey, I'm not ready to put this kitchen. This happens a lot, especially right now, where the option isn't available through the builder. We'll say, hey, you know what? We'll work with your designer or sales counselor to add a gas stub out in this location, a 110 in this location, and water and sink connections in this location. We'll literally put a diagram up that tells all those trades where those drops go, and say, whenever you close, give us a call. We have the rough diagram. We can even build out what their outdoor kitchen looks like, and handle it totally after close. Oh, some builders are definitely okay with that too.
They would go back to their electrician. Your company wouldn't go in and do the prep package for them.
Well, if we're the electrician, then we would just talk to that side of the
Great.
business. But
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I just didn't know,
Yes.
because when we were selling security and all of that, we had prep packages and then the aftermarket that followed, or full packages.
Yeah, there is a
Going into that.
communication piece between us and the builder, where the builder then tells the plumber, tells the electrician to, hey, gas drop and electrical and water are needed in these areas. And that designer will then work with the buyer to add those items to the options addendum. And actually, in some cases, we even do that turnkey for the builder. We're essentially an arm where they allow us to add those options directly into their portal. So there's quite literally no transfer of, hey, take this paper, translate all this data and then put it in. We're doing it for the builder.
How much education and information of the sales agent in the home do you need to do to get them comfortable with this kind of new process? Because there's a lot of skepticism when there starts to be these kind of communication in between trades and other service provider.
Right. I would say keep it simple. So there's two paths you can go down. One, and I would say do both simultaneously, but you're absolutely right. Getting buy-in from sales counselors, from the designers is crucial, because they're not going to offer something that they're not comfortable with. What we found is if they're not comfortable with it or don't have maybe a boilerplate answer to say, then they're just saying, I don't really know, and walking away, or not even bringing it up at all. And that's fair, right? No one wants to be put in a situation with a potential client, potential buyer, where you go down this road of you're telling them something potentially is not true, right? I understand it. So two paths. One is educating and getting designers and buyers bought in. The piece there, education, is more offering the experience, because what we do when we come to the table with our partners is we are the experts. We want you to lean on us. So the second fold is making sure that you have a line that says, hey, this stuff is really cool. You're asking some really engaging questions. It's a little out of my comfort level, but we partner with HomePro, and they're an expert in this field and more, and you're going to get to meet with them. You'll get to tour their design center, their showroom, spend a couple hours designing the fun outdoor spaces, technology, things like that you would like to. So one, educating the experience, or communicating the experience, which everyone could do. Sales counselors do it. They can do it with the kitchen, right? Talking about countertops and cabinets and what it's like to live in that space. They can also do that with outdoor living and patio.
So for the builder, essentially HomePro is being treated just as, I don't want to oversimplify, but like another trade that they're relying, whether it's the electrician, plumber, concrete. anybody else. It's another trade that they're negotiating and working with to deliver the.
Well, we actually are the trade, but
Okay.
it might vary. Like there's some builders we work with where we are more of technical design services. There's builder I'm thinking of where we do all of their low voltage and smart home statewide. However, there's certain communities we do low voltage and electrical in, but as a turnkey offering to make sure the experience is same, we offer electrical design services as well. So, and it allows consistency with the buyer. So that way they're happy, it creates a positive experience. It also allows the sales counselor to just say, hey, you know what? These are great questions. You're going to have a great conversation with your experts at HomePro.
Yeah. Another question.
for you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How much is the average amount that you find the buyers are spending with you for
Man,
their outdoor space?
were you a plant? I think you're a plant. Golly, we can bounce around, but yeah, so a large majority of buyers are spending something, right? There is, I feel like the biggest objection we get when we're going in and talking to a partner that is maybe not familiar with the low volt space or even outdoor living or anything that we're talking about, they just say, I don't think our buyers are going to do it. And someone in a session the other day made a really great comment, and it was, you individually, builder, don't always necessarily represent your buyer. And I think that's really great insight, because our buyers are vastly different. We have to be able to pivot and understand what they like and dislike. But from our data, it shows that, most buyers are spending on average about $4,000 every time they come through a showroom. Obviously, that's going to vary by price point and whatnot, but just kind of going back and looking at the things that we're installing and into. Obviously, we talked about outdoor kitchens, and with that, we've already talked about mounting TVs. Part of our 2024, 2025 options was layering in outdoor TVs. For the production buyer, that's a little tough, just because it's a little more price sensitive. They're more spending $5,000 in wiring for the house, whereas a luxe buyer, a custom buyer is more than willing to spend $5,000-$10,000 on a TV package. We also try not to offer that as a la carte item, so it just allows, or it prevents it from being shopped, because you can easily pull up, and this happens to us all the time, especially with technology, probably with appliances too. You see this with appliances, but buyer pulls up Amazon, I can get that appliance for, $200 less. Why are you doing this? Well, you're wrapping this into your loan. We're installing it. There's some turnkey warranty stuff there, but it just removes that uphill battle. Lighting is also one we are pushing into, and probably even more as the low voltage category rather than electrical. Albeit there are a ton of electrical options that we have the ability to offer as a turnkey service for our builders, but there's great companies like Jasco that are really pushing the space for under eave lighting and making it more affordable for buyers. And I mean, I don't know how you put a value on it, but I promise you, if you put two houses in the dark right next to each other, one with this beautiful under eave wash and the other with nothing, the one that has the light on it is going to look way better. I mean, it is substantially different in the perceived value when you're looking at that house. So that's also a big reason why we went into it. There's a wow factor there. But they also have cafe lights and different other lighting solutions that we can add to the patio space or outdoor space that we're looking into as well. Shades and heaters. There's probably, they're not an option that we currently offer, but it is something that we are going to offer. I don't see any other way. I want to say heaters are definitely on there. Shades are one that we're looking at. Especially in some of your southern areas, right? Houston, on the bayou, next to a river, next to a pond. You can imagine as soon as 5 or 6 o'clock hits in the summer, mosquitoes are out like crazy, right? So how do we turn that fan on, drop those shades, maybe open the sliding doors, and we have this sort of indoor-outdoor experience that sans mosquitoes, sans bugs. But yeah, so those are, landscape and architectural speakers as well. So yeah, landscape speakers are something that we added to our list of options this year. That is a package I was personally really excited about because currently or prior to, we would have speakers that are mounted to the ceiling or even flush mount in the ceiling. This just adds another layer. So if you've got a casita that's, off a ways of the house or a little cabana or what have you, we have an option that a buyer can roll into their loan that is just like adding audio to their kitchen, just like adding audio to their family room, etc. And we've talked a lot about this already, but I really want to focus on the marketing piece and really how we're going to market with this, right? So one, we talked about already, education, making sure sales counselors are bought in. Two is having the marketing and the collateral around it. So I almost see those as handrails and tools that sales counselors can use to help fill that uncomfortableness of you're not sure what this does or how it works, but hey, we work with a company called HomePro. Here's a little bit about them. We love our experience with them. You're going to love them. Call this number to schedule your appointment, things like that. And we can build marketing programs that are co-branded with the builder around whatever it is that you're offering, whether it's a outdoor technology package or there's builders in Houston that are really, and Austin, that are looking to offer outdoor kitchens as what I would call a spec package, or promotion, right? So you get these specs come with, you can choose between an outdoor kitchen or a generator. These are just a couple of the installs, and I'll talk about the products we use. You brought up HDPE. That stuff is bomb-proof. I want to say we use a company called Innovation Cabinetry, and I think the guys were telling me that they have in their shop or at their factory a sample of this cabinetry that is submerged in water. And I want to say that he said it's been there for 3 years next to a sample that's not in water. And it looks the exact same. That blows my mind. But it's hard to really communicate the look and feel of this because we actually had a builder come through. They saw it. They were like, man, this stuff looks awesome. We want to include this as an option. He went back, communicated it to his team, and then I guess they killed it, but we found out that when he communicated it to him, he said, oh, the cabinets are plastic. And I'm like, oh, God. So it was a little frustrating because I would never call this plastic. They're not even remotely close to being what you would think as plastic, but it's a lifetime warranty on the cabinets. So transferable as well. We try to, I think it was you that said this, we're trying to make sure that we're putting our name behind products that can stand the test of time, especially in Houston. The cabinet company is based in Florida, so used to sun and salt. And we wanted to go with a company like that. Plus, builders hate warranty. We hate warranty. So if there's a way that we can limit that and choose products that are going to not fail us, then that's what we want to go with. And that's the horse we decided to ride in on. But in terms of like actual finishes of the product, there's various different cabinet styles they can choose from. Specifically in the production space, we had it to where, almost like you go to Chick-fil-A. I know what I want every time. I want a number one, I want a sweet tea, 3 Chick-fil-A sauce, boom. So you've got, the 5, 6, 7, and the 9 package. You can choose what your cabinet faces look like. You can choose the color. You can choose if you want to do a griddle option versus a grill. Like all these things are no charge options. But it just gives the buyer the ability to customize a package built for production, but still give it this custom feel. However, the other end of that, I want to say that when Innovation first pitched us, they said that, if you combine all the SKUs, you can make like 2 million different combinations. Which I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a ton. But for the custom buyers, we do offer custom services to be able to truly do a custom fit outdoor kitchen that is designed for their space, whether it's an L or something like that. And then even adding toe kick lighting and lighting under the countertops, things like that. It's just a great example of an L-shaped kitchen. Power burner is also an option. So you were talking about cultural trends, and this is actually a brand new package that we just added. But not this specifically, but essentially it's a cabinet base with a countertop and a power burner. It's a spice kitchen. So we have a lot of cultural buyers down in Houston, and I can't tell you how often that conversation comes up. They want to put a gas stub out in their garage, or I think the other day I was talking to a builder, and he shut this down. He had the plumber pull it out, but they somehow ended up getting the plumber to put a gas stub out in their master bedroom. So they were going to do a spice kitchen in their, retrofit a spice kitchen in their master bedroom. So it's a really common option. And so that's just an example of us trying to create packages that meet the buyer with where they're at, because they're asking for it already, they're interested in it, and it's just a simple option. It's literally cabinetry that is bomb-proof, countertop and appliances that are also bomb-proof, and they're going to get it anyways. They're already putting gas stub outs there, they're already pre-wiring for it, so why not roll it into the loan at that point?
I don't know what that product is. Is it a wood? Does it feel like wood? Is it steel?
I wish I had
It's
something to hand it to
high
you.
density
Polyethylene.
Thank you. Yes.
High
So
density
it feels
polyethylene.
almost like a wood composite material. So it definitely has like a texture to it, but obviously withstands.
Okay,
everything.
and how long has it been around that we know it withstands? Because not everything's bomb-proof.
Well,
Question.
with how it's lasting now, I feel like it was created, when the universe was created. I don't know how long.
I
it's
think
been around.
even some of the furniture product we have that has a 20-year warranty on those pieces, to give like a comparison with cabinetry versus that with the use.
Yeah, I just to add to that, I want to say that there is, and this is third-hand information, but they were telling us that there is a builder in Florida trialing it out on like using that cabinetry in their kitchens. It's significantly more expensive. But if that house floods, all you do is pull those cabinets off the wall, redo the drywall, redo the insulation, wipe the cabinets out, and that's it. Oh, 100%.
Yes. I had a question for you, Nick.
Yeah.
In thinking about back to your note on how you had that kind of telephone game, right, where they
Oh,
were
yeah.
saying the incorrect information, it didn't pass through correctly. Are you coaching around that to the sales consultants or individuals through the marketing materials, or how are you addressing that?
Both. So we try to use the marketing materials as a tool or a handrail to guide those conversations and allow them to fall back on it. It also adds a point of reference. So if they do say something wrong and the buyer reads that, they're like, wait a second, raise my hand and ask a question. But also we are having conversations with sales counselors. That's usually in the form of, run by the community for whatever reason. And I might drop in one or two of the models and say hi to the sales counselor, ask them if they need anything. We'll also host trainings for those sales counselors. We'll bring them into our office. We'll show them what the buyer experience is like so that they know and can communicate, oh yeah, you're going to get to see this really cool stuff at HomePro. Just wait.
I do want to bring the conversation around to regional differences and climate differences as well, because Nick's in Texas and the Houston requirements for outdoor living are very different than Boston or Chicago or wherever you are. So first of all, how many of you are getting, I'll call it significantly increased demand for outdoor living spaces?
So I'm in architecture for our whole company. So 13 metro areas. Far north is Cleveland, and then down to Texas and Florida. So when we first introduced outdoor living as a concept, we all thought that it would fully be embraced for sure in their Texas markets. But it's really been embraced everywhere. We're seeing a demand for outdoor living. Now, the way we address it and the way we condition those spaces so that they're more appropriate in DC or our Cleveland market is different. You might outfit them with different things, but they all want to expand their living space into some sort of outdoor area. And that also goes beyond single family. So we also see it in our multifamily. It's more and more important that people have respite from indoor spaces that are completely locked off so that they have a way to enjoy what space they've purchased in terms of their property. So I think it's universal at this point. We might adorn it differently, but for sure a universally accepted and desired feature.
Well, Jane mentioned, I think, in her trend conversation yesterday about the movement of biophilic design, and we're learning how just a few minutes outdoors underneath a tree can change the endorphins and improve your mental well-being. So, and I think that's a powerful motivator across all climates and all markets to change. And in my neighborhood in outside of Chicago, the number of people who are retrofitting their outdoor spaces is, I would say it's about 10% of the houses in my neighborhood now have significant investment in outdoor spaces. And to be honest, if you want to be in an outdoor space in Chicago in November, you have to be you have to be aggressive about it. You got to be willing to invest in blankets and heaters. Everybody's got fire pits and heaters, and so the point I kind of wanted to make, and I love you guys to weigh in on it, is that it started in California. Nancy could tell us. I think Nancy may have invented outdoor living spaces. It started in California. It swept across the southern United States, especially the Southwest, but it is everywhere now.
I think that same experience could also be applied to Texas because, obviously mosquitoes
Right.
and heat. So what are you doing to eliminate those pesky things, right?
I told my wife, next house we buy, the backyard cannot be on either the west side or the south side of the house, just without question. It has to be.
Lunch.
Go ahead.
I think on our side, I'm actually seeing this in our property management multifamily spaces, like you're mentioning. I think they're seeing how important that is to them. People want to be in a space where they have that access, and it really varies a lot too. I think by activity, by what they're doing. They want the options in the outdoor too. It's not just outdoor; it's all the different things they can do in the outdoor as well. And really how creative people are being with it, right? Like what they're doing, even on the commercial side, it's even into like your pets and how you're, working with your pets and having fun experiences for them, even beyond like the families and the dynamics of the individuals who are using it.
You mentioned in your discussion about layouts, the difference between public and private spaces in outdoor living. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing there? I mean, outdoor living just feels public all the time.
Yes.
And how do you make a private space other than that really cool sauna, which I want, by the way?
I know, right? So no, I think that's a good call out, right? I think that when one is visually looking at the outdoor space, right, knowing that they have a tie into spaces that they can have people conversation, hosting meals, but also knowing that they have private moments that they can have for that disconnect, the engagement with nature, maybe the engagement with the outdoors by themselves, needing that respite. But also knowing there's an option for the more social component of the layout as well. So I think that balance of what those look like across the space is going to feel cohesive to potential buyers or anyone who's using the space, because they essentially know they are not, targeted into one area. They have the ability to move throughout it. And think about that on a small scale too, right? It might be a meditation area, a small meditation area with a water feature. Something really minimal can have a huge impact psychologically on the individuals who are using it, but also not feeling too fixed where they only have that one space as an option.
Just to add to that, I think at least in Texas, it could be different outside of Texas, but there are a ton of developers that are creating amenities or amenitizing the outdoor space, right? So I think of, down in Houston, Bridgeland, Audubon, Two Step Farms, Jubilee. Those are all big master plan developments that have miles and then advertise miles of trails through the community. Even one of them has Wi-Fi. So when you're walking on, which seems counterintuitive, you're like, sometimes I want to disconnect, but technology always follows me somehow. So when you're walking on the trails through the community, the idea is that you have whole community Wi-Fi. How cool is that to be able to merge this blend of technology and outdoor living? And then there's other developers that we're kind of workshopping with, hey, what does it look like to enhance outdoor spaces within each home or have it be standard, right? So what does it look like to have a covered patio standard on every home?
So I'm extrapolating from what you said, but what I'm hearing you say is that outdoor living for the home begins actually at the land planning stage.
In some cases,
If you want to connect to those trails in an efficient way, and so you don't have these really awkward transitions between home, outdoor space, and those trails.
We did release, that's a griddle. So for you Blackstone fans out there, this is not a Blackstone, but it functionally is a stainless steel griddle. Same lifetime warranty, but it just allows for folks if they prefer to use a griddle versus a grill. Coolest thing about the grill, in my personal opinion, other than the actual grill itself, the little knobs have lights on them. So my biggest thing when I'm grilling, I go to take the food off and then I turn the heat up just to kind of scorch everything. And then probably 20% of the time, I forget that I turned the grill on and I come back and I'm like, oh, I just blew an entire tank of propane. But the grill's really clean, So this actually tells you from afar, okay, that knob is on. I can, while I'm walking around, I can, see, okay, I need to go turn the grill off. So I stop wasting gas because in a lot of cases, this will be connected directly into the gas for the house rather than a propane tank.
Is scorching proper Texas barbecue? Is that?
Scorching.
Got to seal the flavor in.
No. I mean, I do love a good seared steak, but scorching it is probably not on the menu.
So one of the things I'm curious about in this conversation is we talked about climate and regional differences in demands. Are there differences among demographics? Now you mentioned cultural buyers, but also are millennials and Gen Z looking for different amenities and fixtures in their outdoor living than from demographic to demographic?
I think on my side, the call out, we had talked in our planning was really sort of about just how, we might have families with a lot of different generations within them and how making sure that's reflected in ways that can be utilized by a wide range of individuals, right? Not just for one group of individuals. So I think that's something always to consider, at least from some of the things I've been seeing, is really how that's playing into the finishes and the color selections and the visual aesthetics of furniture, things like that. And then tying back, I think, to really how people are emphasizing the engagement on those spaces. So whether it's the super fun, ping pong tables and, kind of just the almost giving grace to utilizing how you want outdoor to be versus what maybe you thought it had to be or was expected of.
Yeah, I would totally agree with the multi-generational living. Yeah, I think that's also probably bleeds into maybe a little more cultural buyer, but there's even floor plans that I've seen in Houston where the builder has created a floor plan with two primaries, specifically for that purpose of, allowing the parents to come live with them.
Well, so that means, moving past that, then, and we haven't talked much about that, breaking down that barrier between the indoors and the outdoors. We've touched on it a little bit, but especially if you have an aging in place population, that becomes even more important that you break down that barrier. What are you seeing in that environment? There's lots of really expensive and cool ways to break down the barrier between indoors and outdoors. But are there, and if I could kill every sliding door window in the world, I would. But if there are there other ways to kind of open up that you're seeing that can work in different environments?
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it goes back to your comment about just the planning of the actual community, and what's the developer's intent for, is the community walkable? Is it, just a bunch of houses right in a row and the nearest grocery store is 2 miles away? I would not consider that walkable, but there's a community I was looking at the other day where they do have a active living section, and they've designed it in a way where the center has some retail spaces, coffee shop, a little deli, a small grocery store, and all the houses are around it, and it allows true active living, right? You can be retired or 55 plus and walk to the coffee shop and not have to drive really anywhere. So yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to the planning and how planning of the actual development and how you intend to see that client or that buyer move throughout that space.
Architects have spent a good bit of time in doing floor plan layouts and figuring out how to make the transition from the garage to the kitchen a little bit more interesting, rather than just kind of crawling through back hallways. So it becomes a little bit more dynamic. And is there something similar kind of transitional design models for going from this outdoor to indoor to outdoor? And I'll throw it to our architect here.
To be honest, sliding glass doors, recessed thresholds, we're doing all those tricks. We have to play with it a little bit in some of our climate zones where we aren't as dry. We have to always protect our warranty so that our customer care reps aren't totally unhappy and having lots of visits back. Visually, though, big glass, tempered windows, closer to the floor, all of these things will help bring the outdoors in. And I always argue that we're going to want to make sure the transition from interior to exterior is smooth. So I like to match the feel outside to in so that you almost don't know in a photo if you're inside or outside. The furniture should look like living room furniture. It should really feel that way while it's durable. So we're trying to visually blend it. So before you actually make that transition from a conditioned space to an unconditioned space, that we've already blurred that line. Playing with flooring that's both durable and somewhat aesthetically matching. All those are good tricks. We have to obviously change it based on climate because we can't always have that zero threshold. And we can work with that with clients that might be aging in place or if we have some sort of specific need for a community based on an aged population. So we do all of those kind of tricks.
I think it's a great call out too. It's something so simple, but reflecting the curves in the furniture from the interior to the curves in the furniture in the outdoor. The color palette makes sense and ties together. It seems really obvious, but I think we don't see that happens as often as you'd expect. And it does make that transition and visual experience just so much more seamless.
We've got a few more minutes left here, and I want to talk a little bit about the future, and I'm teeing this up for you, Nick, because you guys started out in technology. Are there new technologies coming in the outdoor living space?
I mean, I said this already. I think there's a lot on our dream board for outdoor living. Yeah, I don't know specifically because a lot of the stuff he brought up is literally my boss and I were talking, and I think there's some really cool stuff that would fit into outdoor living as well as indoor. Robots could be a thing.
We need HDPE coded robots.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, nothing specific. I mean, in terms of what we are specifically doing on the outdoor side, I think we'll be releasing shades within the next year or two. Pools at some point were thrown on that board. That was probably a few years out. Water features, probably the same thing. But, I think there's more on than it is off.
Because you spend a lot of time on the commercial side, and oftentimes what starts on the commercial side ends up over here on our side.
Mm-hmm. I think that similar to what we've been saying before is just an expansion of sort of those like really interesting and unique activity type furniture, experiential things that can be brought in a way that's achievable kind of to anyone, right? That's not just a super high dollar amount thing. I also hope that, maybe like the increase in the quality of materials and things that we could see just get better and better. So that actually is a benefit to everyone and longevity of product.
Any final questions from the audience?
So I'm working, my clientele today is a lot of independent designers, small firms, boutique home builders, things like that. And they are using outdoor space, mostly on the West Coast. They're using outdoor space now for offices. And so they're trying to kind of reinvent themselves a little bit to be outside. I didn't listen to Jane yesterday because I wasn't here, but that whole mindset of being outside is what they're seeing and these are all remodels, ground ups, things like that. So that's what they're seeing. I didn't know, Erin, if you were seeing anything like that with furnishing that to go outside, not outside, but in an outdoor space.
No, I think it makes perfect sense. And actually, Raquel and I are speaking tomorrow on that a little bit as well. But really, that integration, I think, is just the direction we're going in. It's happening, but also I think we're just going to keep going in that direction. And then I think everything around it will probably follow suit, right? Like making sure if it is office and outdoor, it's like that product actually then works for outdoor. We don't really have fully yet, but could, I think, evolve in a really interesting way.
Thank you both very much. I want to close on an interesting. There is an unpredictability about working outdoors. Northern Illinois, we experienced the 17-year cicada this year, and I love to sit on my back deck under the umbrella with my laptop. The cicadas in the maple tree were at 90 decibels, and it was impossible to work outside. And then that followed up with not a pleasant smell. But thank you very much to Erin and Nick, you guys, great. Appreciate it. Thanks also for the questions from the audience. You guys are fabulous. Thank you all very much. Enjoy your afternoon.